Imagine the world's largest hot desert, known for its endless sands and scorching heat, suddenly covered in water. Seems impossible, right? But this is exactly what is happening now in the Sahara Desert. Stunning images show entire areas flooded, rivers forming where there was previously only drought. Why is this happening? And what does this unusual phenomenon mean? Many are wondering, is this just a climate anomaly, or is something much bigger underway? What if these floods were more than a natural event? What if they were, in fact, a sign of the times? Could the flooding of the Sahara have something to do with biblical predictions about the last days? Are we closer to Jesus' return than we think? Before continuing, I'll give you a quick message. Want a chance to win our book, Achieve Abundance with God's Blessing? Then subscribe to the Cantos Divinos channel and participate in our weekly draw exclusive to subscribers. To compete, simply be registered, like the video, and leave your comment. Sign up now and good luck. The Sahara Desert is more than a symbol of heat and dryness. It is one of the most extreme environments on the planet. Covering an area of approximately 9 million square kilometers, it occupies almost the entire northern portion of the African continent. Temperatures there can exceed 50 degrees Celsius, and rain is virtually non-existent in many regions, making it one of the most inhospitable places on Earth. However, the history of the Sahara was not always like this. Thousands of years ago, geological records indicate that the Sahara was green. Yes, you heard that right. Raging rivers cut through the landscape, forests spread, and human communities flourished where today there is only sand. This period, known as the Green Sahara, is a reminder of how Earth's climate can change drastically over time. But what we're seeing now is not a gradual return to that verdant past. It is something abrupt, different, and for many, inexplicable. Recently, torrential rains flooded entire regions of the desert. Temporary rivers, which appear once a decade, are now flowing more frequently. Images captured by satellites and testimonies from local people show a stunning transformation in areas where water was just a mirage. The question many experts are asking is, why is this happening? Some attribute it to global climate change, with the warming of the atmosphere and changes in wind and rain patterns. Others point to the direct impact of phenomena such as Atlantic warming and El Niño. But beyond science, this phenomenon is capturing the attention of people around the world for another reason. After all, the submerged Sahara raises questions that go beyond geography or meteorology. Could this be a sign of something greater? An event with spiritual or prophetic significance? It seems that as we look at these unexpected waters in the heart of the desert, we are being called to look beyond the obvious. We are being invited to explore not just what is happening, but what it could mean for all of us. When we analyze floods in the Sahara from a scientific perspective, we find fascinating explanations that connect this phenomenon to the complex dynamics of our planet. One of the causes most cited by scientists is global climate change. As Earth's average temperatures rise, wind and precipitation patterns are changing in ways we are still beginning to understand. In the case of the Sahara, this warming may be intensifying what is known as the Intertropical Convergence Zone, a band of tropical rains that moves with the seasons. When this zone shifts north, it brings unusual rainfall to the desert, causing these floods. Furthermore, the warming of the Atlantic Ocean, especially in its tropical part, is also playing an important role. Warmer waters intensify evaporation, increasing the amount of moisture that can be transported to the interior of the African continent. Another factor that needs to be considered is the impact of climate phenomena such as El Niño and La Niña. These cycles affect the global climate in profound ways, altering rainfall patterns in regions like Africa. During El Niño years, for example, the Sahara can experience spikes in rainfall in areas that are traditionally extremely dry. Furthermore, the topography of the Sahara itself contributes to these events. During rare rains, the sand does not absorb water efficiently, creating temporary rivers and lagoons that can last for weeks. This effect is amplified by the fact that in recent years, some desert areas are experiencing more rainfall than ever before due to intensifying changes in global climate systems. Still, even with these detailed scientific explanations, something seems different this time. The images we saw don't just show sporadic rains, but continuous flooding and large-scale transformations. Scientists are beginning to question whether the Sahara is entering a new climate cycle, perhaps a prelude to even greater changes to come. But here's the big question. Why are these changes happening now, and what do they tell us about the future? Even for science, some answers remain vague. And it is exactly at this point that many begin to look beyond science, seeking deeper, spiritual, or even prophetic interpretations of such extraordinary events. When we look at the floods in the Sahara Desert, many do not see it as just a climate phenomenon. For many people of faith, this is seen as a possible fulfillment of biblical prophecies that point to signs in heaven and earth in the last days. The Bible is full of passages that mention extraordinary natural events as indicators of divine changes or the proximity of important moments in the spiritual history of humanity. In Matthew chapter 24, verse 7, Jesus Christ said, "For nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places." Although this passage speaks directly of earthquakes, many interpret it to refer to natural disasters in general, dramatic changes in the order of nature that act as signs for humanity. Furthermore, in Luke in chapter 21 verses 25 and 26 we find, "There will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars. On earth the nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." Although this prophecy specifically mentions the sea, the reference to perplexity and anguish generated by natural phenomena can also be connected to events such as the floods in the Sahara. After all, a flooded desert is disconcerting to say the least. Another interesting passage is in the book of Isaiah, chapter 35, which describes a vision of restoration and hope. "The desert and the thirsty land will rejoice. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom like a daffodil." And this text, although often interpreted as symbolic, is also seen as a literal promise that, in future times, God will transform barren areas into places of life. Could the flooded Sahara be a partial fulfillment of that promise? For many scripture scholars, the occurrence of such unusual natural events as this is no coincidence. They believe that such phenomena serve as divine reminders, a call for humanity to turn to God before the end times come to fruition. It's important to remember that throughout history, major natural events have often been seen as signs from God. The flood in Noah's time, for example, was not just a geological event, but a divine act with a clear purpose. Today we are seeing something that also challenges common explanations and leads us to reflect on our place in God's greater plan. If the flooding of the Sahara is truly a sign of the times, then the most important question is, are we prepared? Not just ready to understand what is happening, but spiritually ready for what it might mean. This reflection leads us to a crucial point. The submerged Sahara is not just a scientific curiosity or a unique event. He makes us question whether we are paying attention to the signs around us and invites us to seek answers not only in science, but also in faith. After all, as is mentioned so many times in the Bible, God speaks in different ways, and it is up to us to be attentive to listen and understand. When we witness events as extraordinary as the flooding of the Sahara Desert, we are led to reflect not only on science or prophecy, but also on our place in this vast and complex universe. Why are we living in a time when natural disasters, climate change, and unusual signs seem to multiply? Is this all just a coincidence, or is there a greater purpose behind these events? From a philosophical point of view, these events confront us with the fragility of our existence. We live on a planet where nature, so powerful, can transform in days what took centuries to establish. The flooding of a desert, a place known for its extreme dryness, is a reminder that the control we think we have over the world is actually an illusion. This invites us to reconsider our relationship with the earth and our responsibility as its caretakers. Spiritually, these changes also awaken deep questions. Many believe that events like this are a call for humanity to awaken, to look beyond ourselves and seek a greater purpose. In the Bible, it is often repeated that God uses nature as a form of communication, whether through a rainbow, as in the pact made after Noah's flood, or through earthquakes, strong winds, and even fire, as we see in the stories of the prophets. Is the flooded Sahara yet another message, something we are called to observe and interpret? Furthermore, the transformation of an arid place into a space full of life is full of symbolism. Spiritually, the desert is often associated with times of trial, loneliness, and the search for answers. But what if the desert that turns into an oasis is a sign of hope? A reminder that God is able to bring life even in the most unlikely places. And what does this mean for our own lives? Sometimes we face periods of desert on our personal journey, times of emotional, spiritual, or even physical dryness. But events like this show us that change is possible, that even the most arid of lands can be renewed. If God is able to transform a desert like the Sahara into a place of running water, imagine what he can do in the dry areas of our souls and our lives. Therefore, this phenomenon is much more than a natural event. It is an invitation to reflect, to look inside and ask, am I prepared for the transformations that may come? Am I open to hearing what God might be saying through this? The flooding of the Sahara reminds us that life is dynamic, full of surprises, and that everything is connected on a greater plane, often beyond our immediate understanding. And perhaps the greatest call of this event is not to ignore these signs, but to use them as inspiration to reconnect with the Creator and our mission here on Earth. Well, if we are seeing waters where there was only sand before, perhaps it is time to allow God to do the same in our hearts. Bring life, renewal, and purpose to where there was once emptiness. And now, I leave this question to you. How are you interpreting all of this? Are these events just coincidences or part of something bigger? Share your reflections in the comments. I want to hear your opinion because together we can deepen this conversation even further. And for those of you who are interested in biblical curiosities and wisdom, we leave here one of our most impactful videos. See the letter in which Joseph of Arimathea describes Jesus perfectly. This is the letter that the world needs to know, and you will be impacted by it. Click and follow. Thank you again for your attention, and may you remain under God's grace. See you soon.